Moscow. In less than 30 years, Europe's largest and most populous city has become a modern megalopolis. Capital of Russia, the largest country in the world, Moscow has preserved in its center the architectural traces of its long history. Facing the Kremlin on Red Square, these onion domes, recognizable above all, St. Basil's Cathedral amazes with its originality. According to legend, Ivan the Terrible, the first Tsar of Russia, ordered that the eyes of his architects be pierced so that they could never reproduce such a masterpiece. This cathedral, formed by several chapels, is today a museum, one of the most visited in the country. Like many sacred places, after the fall of the Soviet bloc, it was completely restored and religious services are held here again. Irina and her family are among the handful of Muscovites who are bringing life to this monument. Every Sunday morning, they come to attend the service. In Russia, for the past 30 years or so, the Orthodox religion has received a new lease on life. Faithful to the early churches, it is accompanied by a burning faith of devotion. During the services, no organ, no instruments, only the human voice carries the prayers. It is called the Silence of Angels. Legend has it that when they saw the Son of God become human, the angels fell silent and men resumed their singing to the glory of God.
Singing in chorus during services makes the celebration more beautiful. And for us, it also symbolizes the Song of Angels by God's side. Furthermore, we're driven by the desire to get more involved in the service. So when we sing, we feel even more joy. It's wonderful to sing together with the people who are there, standing in the church. It's a blessing.
At the end of the celebration, the faithful come to bow on the tomb of the patron saint of Moscow, Saint Basil the Blessed, as if to become closer spiritually.
We feel like we're diving into Russia's past, because this chapel dates from Ivan the Terrible. And for me, it's very touching to get closer to what was happening at the time, to be connected to history, if only for a second.
At the time of the construction in 1555, it was not yet known as St. Basil's Cathedral. After his victory in Kazan against the Tatars, Ivan the Terrible, first Tsar of Russia, built this cathedral. It was formed of several chapels to celebrate the triumph of Orthodox faith against Islam and the unification of Russia into a huge empire. The colored domes crown each of the 8 chapels, symbolizing the 8 battles that led to victory against the Tatars. A complex connected by galleries, which surround the central church, surmounted by an octagonal roof. the Church of the Intercession of the Virgin. At the top, its golden dome echoes those of other churches in Moscow, whose multiple domes shine like a flame, one that illuminates the churches, one that represents faith, and one, the resurrection of Christ. St. Basile's geometric patterns with their bright colors, unique in Orthodox architecture, have aroused surprise throughout history. But for Irina Alexeyevna Chugrieva, who works for the conservation of this priceless heritage, they have a real meaning. They symbolize heavenly Jerusalem, paradise on earth.
It's like a fantastical city. Several chapels form a circle between them, and it makes us think of the image of the Holy City, or of the sky, from where incredible colors emerge. And all the elements that make it up are a kind of infinite ornamentation. A gilded vine that flourished and gave life to supernatural flowers. It must elevate us spiritually and bring us closer to a form of beauty that has no equal on earth.
At the heart of the cathedral are the motifs of the Garden of Eden in the many passages that connect the shrines to each other. The various chapels of St. Basile's complex were built in only 6 years, an incredible speed for the time. They are attributed to a Russian architect, Postnik Yakovlev, but there is still doubt as to the real identity of their creator.
Some compare the cathedral with Indian palaces. Some still today search for shared Islamic architectural features.
For the architect Andrei Batulov, director of Kremlin museums, the architecture of St. Basile was perhaps influenced by the wonders of the Renaissance in Europe.
Many representations similar to the plans of this cathedral can be found in Renaissance architectural treatises. Of course, we cannot forget the many church drawings by Leonardo da Vinci. It is one of the only churches in the world that materialized the most ambitious ideas of the theorists of the Italian Renaissance. One can then imagine how new it was for Moscow, where traditional medieval Russian architecture reigned at that time.
The Orthodox Church is traditionally part of a square layout inherited from Byzantine architecture. Still today, the singular style of St. Basile makes it a unique monument in history. Despite this singularity, we find all the symbols of the Orthodox religion here. Iconostases are monumental works that physically separate the altar where priests serve the faithful.
In Orthodox tradition, the altar must be hidden just as the Temple of Jerusalem was hidden in the Old Testament. It is a sacred place, and only the first priest should have access to it. For the altar is the place of the sacred ceremony of the Eucharist. where bread and wine are converted into the flesh and blood of Christ. To preserve its sacred dimension, this ceremony should not be seen by the uninitiated.
This way of celebrating the Eucharist existed at the origins of the Christian Church. Only the Orthodox have kept it. For them, the iconostasis is a passage through which the faithful can contemplate eternal life. The icons are not simple pious images representing Christ or the saints. They are revered as if they were the saint himself. And miraculous powers are often attributed to them. For nearly 30 years, Irina Alexeyevna Chugraeva has worked to restore St. Basil's icons to keep this heritage alive.
This icon was almost destroyed. As it's a very old icon, it required a thorough restoration and needs regular monitoring and care. We noticed that the winter cold had damaged some areas, so we applied special bandages that I am removing. The layer of paint can be saved thanks to this process.
Most of the restoration of St. Basil's icons takes place in a workshop located in an annex building. To bring out the divine in its wooden base, the restorers rely on the work of the great icon painters. If the painting's realism is based on the traditional perspective, in the icons, it's the contrary. The lines of flight move away to show spirituality and make visible the inner light of the holy figures.
I'm restoring an icon of St. Nicholas. In this photo, we see that it used to be tarnished and oxidized, and the colors had faded. You see there? There are areas where the plaster is gone. Here I'm working on the colors. I'm filling in the white parts where the colors were missing to get closer to its original aspect, so that it can be exhibited again in the museum.
The main mission of the iconographer is to enter the universe of the icon, to understand in what style, how it was made, and to feel its predestination. There are no trivial details. The most important thing is to dissolve the author's gesture, so that our intervention is not perceptible.
The exceptional collection of St. Basil's Museum contains more than 800 objects, including icons dating from the 16th century. Every year, more than 400,000 tourists come from all over the world. In the afternoon, they respectfully walk the corridors and the small chapels, rich in the fascinating history of this country. As St. Basil's Cathedral is no longer the important place of worship it once was, the religious community turns to other shrines. In Sergiev Posad, 70 kilometers north of Moscow, the Trinity Lavra of St. Sergius Monastery is one of the most important places of Orthodox faith. On July 18th, pilgrims from all over Russia gather to attend the liturgy of the Great Patriarch, head of the Orthodox Church. They come to commemorate Saint Sergius of Radonez, founder of the monastery and one of the most venerated saints in the country. His healing powers make him a saint superior to others. Irina makes this pilgrimage every year to unite her faith with that of an entire people.
I came to work for the glory of God. For me, it is important because 3 years ago, my husband and I, we'd worked in the Cathedral of Christ the Saviour, and by God's mercy, our long-awaited daughter was born. She is our firstborn, so she is very precious to us. And now we would like to address our most secret requests to Saint Sergius on his feast day.
Built in 1337, the Trinity Lavra of St. Sergius Monastery includes more than 50 buildings, of which the most important is the Assumption Cathedral, built like St. Basil's by Ivan the Terrible. Orthodox religion separated from Catholicism about 1,000 years ago. Its rites immerse its faithful in an atmosphere of intense meditation. By combining repetitive prayers, the effects of candlelight, and symbolic icons, it invites man towards introspection. After decades of Soviet oppression, the faith of the Russian people is once again expressed with fervor. Practitioners have grown from 20 to 70% of the population in just 30 years. Today, it brings together 200 million faithful, most of them in Russia.
For me and my close friends, Orthodoxy is life. Our parents didn't have our luck. They lived at a time when religion was forbidden and believers persecuted. Many were afraid to practice. Others hid their beliefs.
After the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917, all religious symbols were damaged by revolutionaries who wanted to detach the people from their beliefs. Father Makary Veretennikov, a member of the seminary of St. Sergius, looks back on this tormented period in history.
The church had become excessive, embarrassing, and a disturbance. And from the aftermath of the revolution, the church began to be persecuted. Believers began to be killed, especially those who preached, and churches and monasteries were closed. Gradually, the idea was formed that people of faith were a people who had no modern education, that they remained anchored in the past. And this is, in short, the result of massive atheist propaganda.
In the name of atheism, The bells of the Trinity St. Sergius belfry were broken, icons looted, and the seminary had to close its doors. All religious buildings were affected, the most modest as well as the most emblematic. It is even said that Stalin thought of leveling St. Basil's Cathedral. Tatiana Saracheva, director of the Cathedral Museum, conserves all the testimonies of this period.
While
thousands of workers marched on the cobblestones of Red Square, the idea of destroying the cathedral emerged. But some said that St. Basil's Cathedral in Moscow was a unique architectural monument that should be preserved as a legacy. The museum employees found themselves in a delicate situation. On one hand, religion, and on the other, the will to safeguard this historic monument.
If the cathedral was not destroyed, the management of the newly created museum had to deal with the revolution. Supported by historians, the Guardians concealed the works, especially the icons, so that they would not be destroyed by the Bolsheviks.
They installed anti-religious exhibitions in the cathedral walls. These were intended to discourage religion by affirming that religion is the opium of the people. For a long time, iconostasis displayed the quotations of Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, Lenin, Stalin. Thanks to this small sacrifice, we were able to keep the largest collection of icons and iconostasis in St. Basil's Cathedral.
The most precious representations of St. Basil have also escaped the Bolsheviks. They say he was the only individual feared by Ivan the Terrible. Basil was an ascetic, a very pious individual who lived in extreme poverty and publicly denounced the Tsarist regime. Little by little, his character settled in the hearts of the Muscovites.
Basil the Blessed decided very early to consecrate himself to God. And to do so, he chose a path that may seem unusual to us, the Eurodivi path. The Eurodivi, or Fool for Christ, was a particular religious movement very widespread in medieval Russia. It was a renunciation of all earthly goods and an exclusive consecration to God. In any case, Basil the Blessed attracted the attention not only of the people, but also of the lords, which allowed him to present their grievances and concerns. In short, these fools for Christ were intermediaries between the power and the people.
Basil died while the cathedral was being built. After his canonization 20 years later, a chapel was annexed to the cathedral to house his tomb. Since then, the cathedral has borne his name. As night falls over Moscow's capital, the vibrant colors of St. Basil's Cathedral shine in Red Square, an affirmation of the resilience of human faith in the face of the chaos of history.